Good afternoon, Marylanders, and specifically Marylanders this time, because this video is how to purchase your first handgun within the state of Maryland. And if you do not know right now, for you first time handgun buyers, is that you must purchase or transfer or receive that handgun within your domicile state. So if you are from the state of Pennsylvania, you have to purchase it from Pennsylvania. Specifically for Maryland, you have to purchase it in Maryland. If you purchase a handgun in Pennsylvania, they're going to tell you either A, you can't do it, or B, which FFL would you like to have it sent to in the state of Maryland. Now, there are currently some cases that are looking into this, into the constitutionality of that type of restriction, because we have NICS checks now, which makes the marriage from 1960s done with. And also there is a case that is looking into the constitutionality of the handgun qualification license, what you must have unless you're exempt. And notice that this is not a carry permit, because I will try to clarify some things down the road. Now, to give you a synopsis of this, is that before you even go into the store and purchase your first handgun, you are going to be out of, let's see, $150 for the training, plus another $50 for the let's say $50 on average for live scan. Then you're going to pay another $50 for your background check. Then you're going to probably pay, I want to say, $25 for your ammo if you do not have a firearm to use at the range. And I want to say that's pretty much it. So on average, you're going to be on average paying up to $250, maybe upwards of $300. Also, when we talk about time, and I'm talking irrespective of what's current crisis right now, on average, you're going to be waiting on average 38 days before you're able to pick up and receive in your hands your first handgun. Now, the background check process takes on average, they say, 3 weeks, but usually no longer than 30 days, unless there is a huge issue that they have. But let's just say on average, for all intended purposes, because it couldn't take less, 30 days. That's usually the maximum average. That's how long it took for me. And then when you go into the shop and purchase the handgun, you're going to walk in that day. You're going to have a 7-day waiting period on top of that, which is 37 days. And then before you start that background check, you have to have 8 hours of training. So that's basically 38 days, which I have derived that from, but it may be less. Also, it may be more, because there's going to be a backlog, or there's going to be a waiting period for taking HQL classes. Now, there may be a way around that. I will show you this in a moment, but there's going to definitely be waiting periods, as a lot of gun ranges are limiting to 10 spaces per people, and slots are filling up fast, I know, especially after the protests and the riots that have taken place. It is definitely shooting back up, so you might want to do this as soon as possible. Now, going back to getting the permit, first of all, you're going to have to find a course to take. Now, one thing about this course is that it has to be 8 hours, or on average, I want to say 8 hours. It has to have certain components that you have to do. But one of the main things about the course that you have to understand is that it requires a live fire. And that live fire is, you do not, basically all you have to do is put one shot into God knows where. As long as you're not putting it into somebody else, that counts as sufficient for the Maryland State Police. And to understand why they do that, and I would try to keep this as professional, but I'm going to keep it real with you, is that the reason why they do that is that so you will not be able to take this course online, like how a lot of other states are able to take the course online. Like if you're in Texas, you could take a hunter safety course online. They will not allow you to take this at any classroom or any type of, makeshift seminar that somebody does. You have to specifically go to the class and then go to a range. So this basically effectively destroys or inhibits a cycle of purchasing handguns for residents, especially in the city of Baltimore, as they will have to travel out to maybe Marriottsville. Marriottsville Road might be the closest range out there, but you're not going to be able to usually take this class within the city. And if you don't understand what the handgun qualification license is, you can thank your boy O'Malley. Is that they basically they loved what North Carolina had with their purchase permits, and North Carolina has their purchase permits are a relic of Jim Crow laws, and I'm not going to go into detail that. I will break down everything about the handgun qualification license, but you need this. Once you take the class, they will set you up with pretty much everything you need. Once you fire, you want to keep your sheet for your rounds, and you're going to have to get fingerprinted. Now, one major thing about the fingerprints that you have to understand is that if you are going for your wear and carry permit on the second day of your 8-hour training course or whatnot, you are going to have to take a whole separate set of fingerprints. Unfortunately, that's how it works. We have a lot of special needs politicians. We have a lot of special needs police officers, specifically talking about the state police that is running this, is that they require 2 separate fingerprints for 2 separate permissions for one right to keep and bear. But I digress. Once you take those fingerprints, it will have a code on there, that live scan code. You will enter that code into, once everything is said and done, you're going to go in here, which is another part of the special needs program of the Maryland State Police, because you're going to have to, I don't know why they didn't decide to put this in one website, because the website that you do your 77R goes all, even your wear and carry permit goes all through the licensing portal, but they have this special website for you to be able to search like 17 to 25 or something like that databases to find out that you are not a prohibited person. You pay your $50, you put in the information that they want, and then once you are approved, they will mail you your HQL. Now, also is that I do not know how long that mail time will be. From my personal experience, I had to wait after I took the class, I had to wait 30 days for them to approve me after they checked all the databases. And then they put it in the mail, it never arrived, so I had to walk in and to the Reisterstown Licensing Division and go pick another copy up myself. Free of charge, because they never came to my mailbox. But the thing is that currently, if you're listening to this video amidst the COVID-19 crisis, is that they are not doing walk-ins. So it may be a wait time, but you need that permission slip, that piece of plastic, in order to be able to purchase your handgun. Now, you've taken a class, you've gotten fingerprinted, you've done the background checks, you've done the live fire. Also, that your certificate has your handgun instructor's code on there. You want to be able to keep that in case if you have to put that in, and especially for your records in case they screw up on anything. Now, you're going to go, before you go and purchase your first firearm, you're going to want to go into this place, and you're going to want to do something called a 77R form. The 77R form is effectively the whole registration process, because all regulated, or not all regulated firearms, all pistols and most other regulated types of firearms must be registered. And you complete this 77R application. I'm not going to go into it. This is just a picture of what it looks like. And you also have your handgun permits, where they want to see you hurt or raped or something like that, and then that your rapist will come back again to rape you some more. But may probably get that permit, and then you beg to the police officers and probably give them a dry tug or something like that. But this is the 77R application right here. This is where you do your 77R, your handgun permit, and you will start this process. You will basically put in this information, which is kind of redundant, but then once you finish that information, you can pretty much start as many applications as you want to. And then once you finish that, you will go to your gun store. They will pull up your handgun qualification license. They will see that they have their 77R, and then you will pay the money for the pistol, and then they will attach that pistol to that 77R application. Now, be aware, if you change, like I said, you can keep this, you can make one of these in advance, and you can hold on to it forever. One handgun that I purchased the handgun and held on to a 77R in my back pocket last year just so it would be less time in the gun store. So you can do as many, I guess you can do as many of these as you want. I don't know the limit, but just at least have one in the background. Just make sure it has your right address and your right information. It will ask you also what is the purpose of you getting this handgun. So you want to say you want to purchase a handgun from a shop or something. So you don't want to fill out one and say that you're inheriting from somebody. Then you finish the 77R and use that form to purchase a new handgun. Just keep that in mind. Now, it will look something like submitted to application pool once you complete that 77R. And then it will be a 7-day waiting period once they get all the paperwork said and done. And then it will be under review by Maryland State Police Department. And then afterwards, you're pretty much done. You will go back into the gun store. And please understand this. In order for you to leave the gun store in the state of Maryland requires you to have a barrel lock. Unless it is an older firearm, then you can be able to get away with a cable lock. So they will not let you leave that store even if you have a carry permit, unless you attach a barrel lock to that pistol, and they usually cost around $25 to $35. So if you do not have one from your friend that you can borrow, expect for you to be able to pay that because they will not let you leave the store without that barrel lock. You put the barrel lock in the pistol, and you transport it in the back, unloaded, magazines unloaded, obviously all that other stuff, and then the pistol is yours. And now there are certain restrictions. Also realize that including to that 7-day restriction, you can only purchase one handgun a month. Now the way to get around that rationing restriction is that you can apply to be a designated collector. And if you look to see what a designated collector is, you might have to go on Maryland State Police form. Just look up msp.com or whatnot. I will put the link in the description. You fill out the paperwork, you sign it. You can actually email it to them, and they will email you back saying that you have been approved, and you tell them your reasons for wanting to be a designated collector. And what that will allow you to do is that will allow you to purchase multiple handguns on the same day, or you can go purchase one handgun that day and another handgun the next day. But each of those handguns will still have the 7-day waiting period. There is no way around that. I'm not even sure if you're a cop, if there's even a way around that. But that is basically what is going on. Now, to go back to what I was talking about earlier, that some things may change. Currently, right now, the Supreme Court and the circuit courts are looking into a couple of things, because Maryland shall issue, and this is the lawsuit tracker, you can look on marylandshallissue.org, is that they are currently looking into the constitutionality of the case. I will break all of this down, what this HQL is about, how it came, and what I think will happen. And also the Supreme Court is looking into a case relating to the restriction on being able to purchase pistols in your home state. Because I know it sucks, but it is, I want to say, let's see, Match versus Barr. This is it. It's called Match versus Barr. It is the restriction that has been back in the 1960s on the interstate sale of handgun permits or handgun purchases. And now, since we have the NICS checks that came out in the 90s, and it is statewide and the same for everywhere you go in America, there is no reason to keep this restriction on, because back in the 60s they didn't have like internet and the technology to be able to do this stuff. And the Supreme Court actually does not need to hear that case. I believe they can just GVR that. It's called grant, vacate, and repeal, because they have this falls under Heller. It is basically a restriction on purchasing handguns. I mean, you have the right to keep and bear, so, you should have the right to be able to purchase. Now, if there's anything else I have forgotten in here, also, if I didn't say this at the beginning, I'm not a lawyer or attorney. Please do not take this as legal advice. And please feel free to give any comments, any criticism or constructive criticism, any additions in the comment section. Please let me know. I will definitely do my best to be able to answer any questions. But this is currently the case on purchasing a handgun. I will go back to who is exempt from this. Like I said, there are two different types of exemptions. So like certain things like licensed firearm manufacturer and like our military. So there's different types of exemptions. You can pause this video. There's exemption from the HQL altogether, and there's exemption from the training, but not the HQL process. Now, also, one thing that you have to realize here, that because I'm not sure if I put this at the beginning of the comment section, but this is like a little thing that you might be able to check out. If you're having difficulties of being able to secure a class without having to wait 2 or 3 months because there are a huge backlog and they are only taking about 10 people per class, there is something in the law that says required to have the HQL but exempt from training component. And it says someone who has completed a firearm safety training course approved by the Secretary of the Department of Maryland State Police. Now, it also talks about has completed the course instruction of the competency of safety of firearms as prescribed under the National Resources article. Now, I'm not exactly sure, but there may be some other classes you may be able to take that satisfy what the state of Maryland is looking for. That's pretty much all I can think of as far as purchasing your handgun, first handgun. It is very tedious. It is very costly for a fundamental constitutional right, but it is what it is. Hopefully this video will be obsolete within the next couple of months, maybe even a year or so, depending on what the Supreme Court decides to do. But this is the current case in Maryland right now. Good luck, everybody. I will probably make a video breaking down the oral arguments that took place in the Fourth Circuit, as somebody has requested, for the constitutionality of this. Stay safe, everybody, and good luck.